The FNCS heats are finally over and 45 teams have qualified for the Major 2 final. And if you didn't watch it over the weekend, you have a lot to catch up on. Team skybasing, someone qualifying with 0 damage dealt, and some of the biggest names in Fortnite missing out on qualifying to finals. Today I'm breaking down everything that you missed during the FNCS heats. The format led to some funny moments. We had 150 duos qualify from play-ins to heats, and when we saw that they were split up into heats on NA Central, it was very clear that they were unbalanced. But first I have to talk about an NA West team. They qualified to grand finals with one of the players dealing 0 damage the entire tournament. But if you look at his time alive, he was alive almost the entire game. So it wasn't like he landed and died and started spectating the entire match and did 0 damage. He was alive, somehow doing 0 damage. We also saw another team qualify to heats by skybasing every single game. Resub made a video highlighting their strat during the play-ins, and they instantly became fan favorites during heat number 2. In heats, you could automatically qualify to grands if you get a victory royale, so seeing the skybasers in finals was definitely a possibility. When the broadcast showed them on max height, they finally got their time in the spotlight, but they instantly died to Storm. They stuck to the plan in heat 2 and actually had a really good game with good mats going into the end game, but one of the players made a bad edit and they died to fall damage. And even on Europe, we saw Kaysen was on a vacation and was actually live streaming himself on his phone during heats. He didn't end up qualifying, but you still gotta respect the grind. But we really need to talk about some big names that didn't qualify, because Kanata has qualified for every single FNCS in Fortnite history, and he didn't make it through heats. When Clix underperformed in FNCS in the past, Kanata did a full VOD review of his entire tournament live on stream, kind of picking on Clix's mistakes. So Clix's mods decided to clickbait the community by changing his title after Kanata didn't qualify, which made it look like Clix was VOD reviewing Kanata to over 23,000 viewers. But Kanata wasn't the only big name that didn't qualify through heats. Moneymaker and Fnagen moved from EU to Central, and although they had a great run through play-ins, that momentum didn't carry over into heats. And when Zen went on vacation before the new season started, Bucky ended up dropping him for Cam, and since he didn't think Zen was locked into the game, Zen went on to qualify to grand finals through consistency with Paper, and Bucky came in 43rd. Bucky was contesting Agers and Veno in heats, and he actually did well off spawn in scrims, but he really struggled during heats. Veno and Agers had more than enough points to qualify through consistency after their very first few games, so they actually switched up their drops entirely for the remaining games. They landed on Creon and Dragon RG at the north end of the map, and many people thought he did this to help his friend Queasy get his spot uncontested in grands. But Veno says it was a move to keep a good team out of the grand finals. And we gotta talk about NA West, because with Lacey and Faxity both playing with pros, this region has a lot more eyes watching it. Lacey and Arc did pretty well all things considered, but they unfortunately missed out on qualifying by just a few spots on West. Their strategy was clearly to stick together even in endgames, but it didn't work out as well as they thought it would. Arc probably should have left Lacey a little bit earlier on the endgames to solo clutch. Clix even offered to coach them for the last few games, but they said they didn't want any help.
Bro, I'm a noob. That's what you're not realizing, Clix. I'm a noob.
You think you're a noob.
Clix, I'm a noob. I am.
When Lacey offered Arc $40,000 to play with him, they both agreed, but if they didn't qual through heats, Arc could play with someone else in the last chance qualifier. There were a couple of moments where Arc messed up or made a bad play, and people started questioning whether or not Arc was doing this on purpose so he could play with someone else in the last chance qualifiers. Going into the final game, Lacey and Arc were not on pace to qualify, and in one of their late game rotations, we saw Lacey almost get fully griefed by the Shape and Shaken Sanctuary. He was thrown into the storm and had to spend 100 mats and his shockwaves just to get back to Arc. And while trying to get up the mountain, Arc told Lacey he was going to finish out the game as a solo.
I'm playing solo. Here, take shocks and shock up.
But then he shocked up and died almost instantly afterwards. After, pros like Clix rewatched the play and they noticed he had a med kit and realized that if he chose to heal in the storm for 10 seconds, he could have earned enough points to qualify for the grand finals.
Bro, if you played the med kit, bro, Look how fast
I
this game
mean,
does.
yeah.
Look how fast this game does.
Item was deliberate. That's a huge sell by Arc. That is a huge sell by Arc. Like that was either really bad
he would've
play.
minimum
like,
got top 6,
like,
and that's guaranteed qual.
Yeah, I'm not even saying it's maliciously bad, but yeah, Arc is too good for that.
That's what I'm
No, they
saying.
would've got fourth.
Yeah,
They would've got fourth
we did
if
the
he
math.
ticked
He would have
out.
got fourth if he played the med kit and ticked out from the health that he was
10
at.
to 4th.
They needed to finish in the top 23 to qualify, but they ended up in 26. On the other hand, Faxity and Salco missed out on grand finals by a singular point. To be honest, Faxity actually played insanely well for his skill level. The main problems were rotations and storm surge. If they got tagged early on, it was very hard for them to stay above the surge threshold. Once the community saw they were one place away from qualifying, everyone started looking for cheaters. And it actually worked because one team ended up getting caught cheating, which means that Faxity and Salco made it through to finals. And this is Faxity's first ever grand finals appearance on West. But there was some drama before Salco and Faxity ended up qualifying for finals, because once Salco realized that Arc didn't qualify with Lacey, he realized he had a chance to team up with Arc to win it all. Salco could qualify through the last chance qualifiers with Arc and potentially win grands with him too. Faxity realized that Salco didn't really want to play with him, so he agreed to disband if the qualifying spot rolled down to them. But if two teams got banned from heats and Faxity and Salco forfeited their spot, that means the qualifying spot would roll down to Arc and Lacey, leaving Salco without a teammate. Looking back at NA Central, Oliver OG and his duo X-Pawn had a roller coaster of a week. They qualified for heats on July 19th, and then the next day, X-Pawn tweeted that his lung collapsed and he may need surgery. This left Oliver playing with different people in scrims throughout the week leading up to heats, and X-Pawn was in the hospital for 5 days, but fortunately he was able to play in the heats with Oliver. To make the story even crazier, it came down to the last game of heats where they ended up in a 2v1 against the Skybaser. The Skybaser had to drop down with a Maven shotgun, and Oliver OG and X-Pawn went on to win the last game to make it to grands. Hopefully X-Pawn is on the road to recovery, and I'm glad they made it through. Okus and his teammate Zonda qualified to the grand finals as well. This came just months after Okus was playing professional Call of Duty. On February 11th, Okus signed with esports org Cloud9 as a pro COD player, and on July 24th, he qualified to the FNCS grand finals. Okus isn't the only pro to return back to competitive Fortnite. Global Championship Mero actually played in the FNCS heats with Mason. They landed at the very south of the map and unfortunately did not make it to the grand finals. Since this video is coming out after the results of the last chance qualifier, I wanted to show you all who ended up qualifying for the last 5 spots. And since EU finished up earlier in the day, I also want to mention that Mr. Savage qualified with Truly and won game 4, making it so he's going to be in the FNCS finals over on EU. It was a crazy game where they were contested off spawn and won the fight against Tayson and Murstache, and then went on to win the entire match to qualify through. The grand finals begins in less than a week, and there are a lot of contenders to look out for. As of now, Clix and Rapid have a solid uncontested drop at Shaken Sanctuary, with a few nice rotation paths for far zones, and the underperformance from both of them at the Summit LAN. It seems like a lot of the pressure to win is now gone. Clix took a long vacation after the summit, and it seems like his mental is in a much better place this time around. I think Clix learned the hard way last FNCS how important eliminations truly are. So we can probably expect Rapid and Clix to play a lot more aggressive and go for a ton more eliminations compared to how Clix and Higgs used to play. Acorn and Bolts arguably have the best drop for positioning on the map at Frosted Flats. From this drop, they can choose to surge base, play Storm, or lurk for their surge. This makes it really hard to grief them without landing directly on them, and they are very good off spawn. If they get a good zone pull anywhere on the west side of the map, we might see Acorn and Bolts go for height. We already know that Peterbot and Pollo can dominate with the mythics or medallions in their hands, and they're also uncontested at a pretty mid-map drop with plenty of loot and access to mythics like the Warforged AR for Peterbot. Even if one of them goes down in the end game, they're both very capable of solo clutching valuable points from a bad situation, especially Pollo. Their drop at Sinister Strip will give them good opportunities to third party and lurk on a lot of teams, so we know they're going to be fighting on the south side of the map. Ritual and Cold are kind of going under the radar on people's predictions after not meeting expectations at the Summit LAN. Teams landing south of Battlewood uncontested have generally done very well in both EU and NA Division Cup finals throughout the season. Ritual is more of a consistent player and Cold is more of a pop-off performance player. So if things go right, that combination could definitely win an FNCS. And we can't leave out the previous FNCS MVP, Veno, and his duo, Agers. After they lost off spawns and scrims, a lot of people have written them off for this FNCS. But honestly, I think that's going to be a good motivator for both of them. And finally, some honorable mentions. Bugha has hit a new prime with braids. Higgs and Curve are at their peak, and Kingaling and Craze just had an insane performance over the weekend, getting the most kills in the hardest lobby of heats. All of these teams are uncontested at pretty decent POI, so they all have a chance to get a top 5 finish or win it all. The finals is happening August 1st and 2nd. 6 teams from NA Central already qualified to the Globals through the Summit LAN, and 6 more teams in the Grand Finals will secure their spot for Globals. After Grands, there's going to be one more chance for teams to qualify for Globals. This is going to be a mini FNCS the day after Grand Finals, and the format is kind of strange, but I'm going to try my best to break it down. There are 2 separate qualifiers leading up to finals. Each qualifier has 3 rounds, and anyone in the top 200,000 of the global PR leaderboard can play in round 1 in both qualifiers. The top 1,000 from round 1 go to round 2, and then the top 300 go to round 3, and then the top 25 teams from round 3 get to the finals. In the finals, there will be only 3 global spots up for grabs on EU, 2 for NA Central, and 1 spot for the other regions. That's everything you need to know heading into the Major 2 finals. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.